Imagine a world suspended in eternal midnight, where the ground itself shatters to breathe towering fountains of crystalline ice into the void. This tiny sphere, no wider than a single terrestrial country, secretly fuels an entire sprawling ring of a gas giant. It is a place of violent, breathtaking beauty, hiding a staggering reservoir of thermal energy just beneath its unblemished, blinding white crust. Deep within this formidable frozen armour, a vast and churning global ocean of liquid water actively defies the absolute zero of deep space. Scalding hydrothermal vents erupt from a porous, ancient rocky core, creating a warm, chemical sanctuary that perfectly mirrors the deep-sea trenches of our own blue planet. Here, in the crushing, pressurized dark, the exact ingredients required to spark the delicate flame of life are flawlessly aligned. Surprisingly, this miraculous water world constantly balances on the very edge of freezing forever, sustained only by the invisible tension of a fleeting gravitational dance. It is a breathtaking and paradoxical masterpiece, a temporary anomaly that radically challenges our deepest understanding of planetary evolution. We have miraculously arrived at the exact right moment in cosmic history to witness its fragile, spectacular, and silent performance. Picture the immense, quiet distances separating you from this frozen jewel, feeling the heavy, comforting pull of gravity anchoring you to your bed. The blankets surrounding you are as protective as that distant ice shell, keeping you completely secure from the chaotic demands of the waking world. You're safe. If we were to look closer at the night sky, the boundaries between your quiet room and the sprawling universe would simply fade away. Allow your consciousness to untether itself from the Earth, rising effortlessly above the atmosphere and into the profound, peaceful silence of the great beyond. Surrender completely to the gentle current of the stars, drifting through the outer reaches of our solar neighborhood, where a singular celestial body commands the dark with an almost supernatural brilliance. Drifting through the outer reaches of our solar neighborhood, a singular celestial body commands the dark with an almost supernatural brilliance. Sunlight travelling across 1 billion kilometers of empty space finally strikes this small sphere, only to be rejected and hurled back into the void. Enceladus absorbs practically nothing of the solar energy that reaches its surface, reflecting almost 100% of the light back out into the cosmos. This blinding reflection of pure white ice stands in stark, absolute contrast to the infinite blackness surrounding the Saturnian system. It is a mirror suspended in the dark, bouncing the sun's distant rays with an efficiency unmatched by any other known planet or moon. The sheer intensity of this reflected light transforms the tiny moon into a radiant beacon, navigating the deep cold of the outer solar system. Observing this phenomenon from afar, one might assume such a luminous object generates its own internal glow. Yet the radiance is entirely borrowed, a dazzling optical illusion created by an unblemished icy crust acting as a perfect cosmic reflector. This total rejection of solar warmth sets the stage for a world defined by profound, unimaginable cold. Because of this pristine mirror-like quality, this small moon holds a unique and dazzling title among the countless bodies orbiting our sun. This exceptional reflectivity elevates it beyond mere planetary debris, making it unequivocally the brightest object in our entire solar system. Its albedo, the measure of how much light a surface reflects, outshines even the freshest, most untouched snow newly fallen on Earth. Surrounded by the muted browns, greys, and dark reds of its neighbouring moons, it shines like a solitary, flawless diamond set against rough stone. The visual impact is staggering, an isolated point of glaring white cutting through the surrounding shadows of Saturn's vast domain. If you were to stand upon its surface, the glare from the ground would be blindingly intense, requiring heavy protection just to open your eyes. Surprisingly, the universe often hides its most fascinating secrets in plain sight, wrapping them in an outer shell of overwhelming brilliance. The sheer brightness masks a complex dynamic world churning beneath the frozen exterior, hiding profound mysteries behind a veil of sheer light. This radiant outer boundary is merely the first layer of an intricate cosmic puzzle waiting to be unravelled. By perfectly reflecting the sun's vital energy, the moon seals its own fate, condemning its exterior to an existence of eternal, punishing frost. Because it reflects so much light and absorbs almost no solar radiation, the surface temperature plunges to an unimaginably bitter -201 degrees Celsius. At this extreme temperature, the very concept of warmth ceases to exist, and the environment becomes hostile to anything but the most resilient molecular bonds. The thin sunlight that bathes the surface provides illumination but absolutely no physical comfort, leaving the crust locked in a state of deep cryogenic freeze. Here, water does not flow. It behaves like solid rock, forming a rigid, unyielding armour that shields the interior from the vacuum of space. The cold is so absolute that the ice itself becomes as hard as granite, forming towering geological structures that would shatter under warmer conditions. Deep within this frozen wasteland, the extreme drop in temperature preserves the surface in a state of arrested development, locking in its secrets. This bitter cold ensures that the outer shell remains a formidable barrier, demanding immense internal forces to ever break through or alter the landscape. It is a world where fire and ice are separated by mere miles of frozen stone. For millennia, this radiant jewel spun silently in the dark, completely unknown to humanity and absent from our earliest maps of the heavens. It was not until the late 18th century that human ingenuity finally caught a fleeting glimpse of this distant, frozen world. The renowned astronomer William Herschel first discovered this gleaming moon in 1789, peering through the lens of a massive handcrafted telescope. Constructed in his own garden, Herschel's 40-foot telescope was a marvel of its era, capturing enough faint light to reveal the hidden architecture of Saturn's realm. Even with such advanced optics for the time, spotting the tiny satellite was a monumental challenge, as it was easily lost in the overwhelming glare of Saturn's rings. The discovery added a new point of light to the known universe, but the true nature of the moon remained entirely obscured by vast distance. This singular moment of observation marked the beginning of our relationship with a world that would eventually rewrite our understanding of planetary science. Yet, for the astronomer standing in the cool English night, it was merely another faint speck orbiting a giant, a quiet triumph of observation. The real secrets of this icy sphere would wait patiently for centuries before humanity could finally reach out and touch them. Following its initial discovery, the glittering sphere retreated back into the realm of the unknown, holding its mysteries tight for generations of astronomers. For over 2 centuries, it remained little more than a tiny, enigmatic pixel of light in our increasingly powerful ground-based telescopes. While other planets and moons slowly surrendered their secrets to advancing technology, this small world stubbornly refused to resolve into anything more than a bright blur. Even as humanity learned to split the atom and send the first crude signals into space, the distant moon kept its true face hidden. We knew its orbit and we knew its extraordinary brightness, but the landscape itself was a completely blank canvas in the minds of scientists. It was a frustrating era of observation, where the limitations of atmospheric distortion on Earth prevented any meaningful study of the moon's surface features. If we were to look closer during those long years of waiting, we would only see a shimmering dot dancing around the edges of Saturn's majestic rings. The immense distance acting as an impenetrable veil, ensuring that the jewel of the outer solar system remained a tantalizing, unresolved enigma. It would take the advent of interplanetary spaceflight to finally shatter this long period of visual isolation. When the first robotic emissaries finally bridged the vast gulf of space, the blurry pixel snapped into sharp, breathtaking focus. The cameras revealed a world unlike any other, confirming that the surface is almost entirely coated in fresh, pristine water ice. This is not the dirty, dust-covered ice found on typical comets or asteroids, but an impossibly clean, brilliant layer that looks as though it was laid down yesterday. This pure coating is responsible for the blinding reflection that had puzzled astronomers for so long, acting as a flawless global mirror. The sheer volume of this frozen water is staggering, wrapping the entire celestial body in a smooth, seamless shell of deep winter. It is a landscape devoid of soil, rock, or dust, presenting an unbroken expanse of white that stretches endlessly toward the curved horizon. Picture a world where the mountains, valleys, and plains are constructed from the exact same material that chills your drink on a summer day. This universal composition of frozen water dictates everything about the moon's surface geology, creating a surreal environment that is both familiar in substance and utterly alien in scale. The ice is not merely a covering, it is the very bedrock of this silent, radiant world. Despite the pure, uniform composition of the surface, this is not a smooth, featureless billiard ball hanging quietly in the void. If we were to look closer, the terrain is violently fractured by deep, shadowed canyons and sprawling, chaotic ridges of jagged ice. The perfect white exterior is heavily scarred, revealing a restless, dynamic history written directly into the frozen crust of the moon. These immense tectonic features stretch for hundreds of kilometers, cutting across the landscape like deep claw marks left by some unimaginable cosmic beast. Towering cliffs of solid ice plunge into dark valleys, creating an extreme topography that betrays the immense geological forces at work beneath the surface. The ridges rise and fall in chaotic patterns, suggesting that the outer shell is constantly shifting, buckling, and breaking under tremendous strain. Exploring this rugged terrain would be a treacherous endeavour, navigating a maze of deep crevasses and towering ice blocks that defy easy traversal. The sheer scale of these fractures indicates that the moon's frozen armour is not a static shell, but a living, moving puzzle of tectonic plates. It is a landscape of profound vertical drops and sharp, unforgiving edges, hiding in plain sight beneath its blindingly bright reflection. In the violent, chaotic environment of our solar system, almost every exposed surface is heavily pockmarked by eons of constant asteroid and comet bombardments. Yet, unlike our own heavily scarred moon, Enceladus shows vast northern regions completely devoid of any significant impact craters. These smooth, unbroken plains stand in stark defiance of the cosmic shooting gallery that has battered its celestial neighbours for billions of years. When observing these expansive, pristine territories, the absence of damage is more shocking than any geological feature could possibly be. It is as if an enormous eraser has been dragged across the northern hemisphere, wiping away the ancient history of celestial collisions. The lack of craters creates a surreal, unnervingly perfect landscape that feels completely out of place in the battered neighbourhood of the outer planets. The glaring absence of impact craters is not an illusion, nor is it a sign that the moon somehow miraculously dodged incoming debris. In planetary geology, this profound lack of craters clearly indicates the surface is constantly renewing and physically reshaping itself over time. Something powerful is actively erasing the damage, burying the evidence of ancient impacts beneath fresh layers of pristine, untouched material. This continuous resurfacing process makes the moon geologically youthful, a rare and highly active world hiding beneath a deceptive shell of deep freeze ice. The crust is essentially a conveyor belt of frozen water, where old, battered terrain is swallowed up or paved over by newer, cleaner ice. It implies an internal energy source robust enough to drive large-scale tectonic activity, slowly churning the outer shell and smoothing out the scars of time. Deep within this dynamic system, the engine of renewal beats steadily, ensuring the outer face of the moon remains bright, clean, and unblemished. The constant destruction and recreation of the landscape mean that any map drawn today will eventually become obsolete as the ice shifts and settles. This is not a dead, frozen relic of the early solar system, but a living, breathing entity constantly updating its own geography. Even when the sun's direct rays are entirely blocked, this brilliant jewel refuses to disappear completely into the deep cosmic night. When the moon falls into the giant planet's vast shadow, only a delicate ghostly sliver is illuminated by the faint glow of Saturn shine. This ambient light, reflecting off the massive cloud-streaked atmosphere of Saturn, provides just enough illumination to cast long, eerie shadows across the ice. During these long eclipses, the blinding glare fades, replaced by a soft, ethereal luminescence that reveals the subtle textures of the fractured terrain. The sky above is dominated by the looming dark bulk of the gas giant, an overwhelming presence that blocks out the distant stars. In this twilight state, the deep canyons and towering ridges take on a haunting, almost mystical quality, painted in muted shades of pale grey. This interplay of shadow and reflected planetary light creates one of the most breathtaking visual spectacles in the entire outer solar system. The absolute darkness is held at bay by the gentle, indirect glow of its massive host planet, a quiet reminder of their eternal gravitational dance. It is a moment of profound stillness, where the brightest object in our solar system momentarily rests in the quiet, cool shadow of a giant. Emerging from the quiet, cool shadow of that giant, we find this tiny moon does not travel alone through the cold void. It carves its path through a delicate, sparkling neighbourhood of microscopic frost, moving in perfect, synchronized harmony with a massive, invisible orbital structure. This glittering sphere comfortably orbits within the absolute densest part of Saturn's majestic, sprawling E-ring. Unlike the sharp, distinctly defined boundaries of the inner rocky rings, this specific region is a ghostly, ethereal fog of ice hanging suspended in the dark. The moon waltzes through this misty wide corridor, completely surrounded by a shimmering cloud of frozen dust that catches the distant, faint sunlight. It is an environment of profound, quiet beauty, a celestial snow globe where the crystalline flakes never actually fall to the solid ground. Floating silently here, the sharp boundary between the moon's bright surface and the surrounding emptiness of space begins to blur and soften considerably. The dense concentration of frost particles creates a continuous, sparkling halo that hugs the moon's trajectory tightly as it circles the massive planet. It is a beautiful, symbiotic relationship of continuous motion and delicate matter, setting the stage for one of the most remarkable phenomena in our solar system. Extending far beyond the classical, easily visible rings of the giant gas planet, this specific band of frost is a cosmic structure of truly staggering proportions. The E-ring is definitively the widest and outermost of all of Saturn's major planetary rings, forming a sprawling, magnificent disk of icy vapour. Its sheer size completely dwarfs the spectacular inner rocky rings, expanding outward into the deep vacuum like a massive, flattened and luminous cloud. If we were to measure its incredible span, this diffuse ring covers a distance so vast it is difficult for the human waking mind to easily comprehend. It stretches across hundreds of thousands of kilometres of pure empty space, creating an enormous ghostly disk that gently tapers off at its incredibly distant edges. Within this immense, silent expanse, countless billions of microscopic individual ice crystals dance quietly in the faint, distant illumination of our sun. Because of its incredibly diffuse and spread out nature, this gigantic ring is nearly invisible to the naked, unaided eye from our vantage point on Earth. It requires highly specialized optical techniques and specific sunward angles for orbiting spacecraft to truly capture and appreciate its breathtaking, unbelievable scale. It forms a subtle, translucent boundary marking the very outer limits of the giant planet's immediate sweeping gravitational influence. In a breathtaking display of celestial mechanics, the bright moon breathes life into the sprawling ring, constantly exhaling its own frozen material into the vacuum. Every sparkling grain of ice drifting through that immense sweeping disk originated directly from the bright, heavily fractured surface of this single small world. It is a staggering, profound realization that a geological body so remarkably small could continuously generate a structure so unimaginably, overwhelmingly vast. The relationship between the frozen moon and the massive ring is profoundly intimate, forming a continuous cycle of giving that defines this unique region of space. Without the tiny moon's relentless ongoing contribution of fresh ice, the sprawling ghostly disk would simply not exist in the Saturnian sky. It transforms our understanding of the moon from a passive frozen rock into a dynamic, generative force actively shaping its surrounding deep space environment. Deep within the violently fractured icy crust, tremendous pressure forces a steady, silent eruption of hidden ocean material out into the freezing, empty vacuum. The moon constantly ejects tiny, microscopic ice particles along its entire orbital path, leaving a brilliant, glowing trail in its rapid, ceaseless wake. This ongoing expulsion of subterranean frost is a silent, magnificent process, happening consistently every single second of every single day. Picture a gleaming, cosmic locomotive chugging along its invisible orbital track, continuously venting a bright white plume of steam that lingers long after it has passed. The ejected material does not simply fall back to the fractured ground. Instead, it escapes the moon's weak gravitational pull and enters independent orbit. It is a constant, dramatic shedding of internal mass, a deliberate, beautiful dispersal of its own frozen ocean into the starry, silent night. This continuous spray of deep ocean frost ensures that the travelling moon is always surrounded by a localised, intense blizzard of its own making. The tiny, freshly formed particles catch the thin sunlight, sparkling like microscopic, flawless diamonds as they are violently cast out into the infinite cold blackness. It is a delicate, ongoing physical performance, a quiet, unending sacrifice of precious water and ice to the surrounding thirsty cosmos. Once freed from the moon's immediate weak gravitational grasp, these newly ejected icy grains do not remain confined in a tight, highly concentrated line. They gradually spread out, dispersing widely through the vacuum to create a highly diffuse, glowing halo that spans hundreds of thousands of kilometers. This rapid expansion transforms a narrow, focused trail of frost into a massive, three-dimensional rotating cloud of free-floating ice. The individual microscopic particles drift apart from one another, guided by complex orbital mechanics and the gentle, persistent pressure of sunlight hitting their highly reflective surfaces. As they disperse, the dense, localized blizzard smoothly thins out into the sweeping ethereal fog that ultimately defines the massive outermost ring. The sheer volume of empty space they eventually occupy is visually staggering, turning a tiny, localized eruption into a structure of truly galactic proportions. Observing this vast, spreading halo from a great distance, it appears as a soft, luminous blur contrasting sharply against the sharp, distinct lines of the inner rings. It is a perfect testament to the immense power of continuous tiny actions, accumulating over vast stretches of time to create something unbelievably immense. The sprawling, glowing mist of ice forms a protective, sparkling envelope entirely encompassing the bright moon's rapid, unending orbit. Let your resting body sink even deeper into profound relaxation, feeling the gentle, comforting pull of gravity, much like the delicate, invisible forces guiding these floating grains. Over time, the scattered particles slowly drift outward and inward from their initial starting point, travelling far across the Saturnian system to interact with other celestial bodies. They become silent, frozen cosmic wanderers, leaving their bright home to embark on a long, impossibly slow journey through the absolute dark. As this gentle, microscopic frost spreads further across the void, it inevitably encounters other, larger moons sharing this expansive outer neighbourhood of deep space. the drifting ancient ice acts as a continuous, incredibly gentle snowfall, slowly coating these neighbouring battered worlds in a fresh layer of highly reflective material. It is a beautiful celestial cross-pollination, where one active hidden ocean physically alters the silent, frozen landscapes of its entirely separate distant companions. Despite its immense, mind-boggling size, this massive ring of drifting frost is a remarkably fragile temporary structure, constantly losing material to the vastness of space. This continuous, active resupply from the bright venting moon is absolutely necessary to maintain the ring's existence against the harsh, degrading forces of the cosmos. Without this relentless, towering fountain of fresh ice, the sweeping, ghostly outer disk would quickly and quietly fade away into total nothingness. The harsh, invisible radiation environment and frequent, violent collisions with microscopic interplanetary dust gradually destroy the individual ice crystals over long stretches of time. Scientists accurately calculate that without the moon's constant driving eruptions, the entire outer ring would completely dissipate within a few short million years. In astronomical terms, a few million years is merely a fleeting blink of an eye, deeply highlighting the massive ring's incredibly ephemeral, delicate nature. It is a delicate, highly precarious cosmic balance, a massive structure existing purely because its tiny hidden engine refuses to stop pumping out new, fresh material. The sprawling, glowing fog of ice is not a permanent ancient fixture of the solar system, but a temporary, brilliant masterpiece sustained by a highly active world. This constant daily renewal is an ongoing race against time, a beautiful battle against the inevitable, slow decay of the surrounding universe. Allow your resting mind to effortlessly track this constant, smooth motion, feeling the steady, rhythmic pacing of your own heartbeat perfectly align with the spinning cosmos. Hurtling relentlessly through this self-made, sparkling blizzard, the bright moon is travelling at roughly 14 kilometers per second, a dizzying, incredible speed that defies normal human comprehension. This relentless, driving velocity ensures the small, active world maintains its precarious, balanced hold in the dense, freezing heart of the frost ring. Moving consistently at this incredible, breathtaking pace, the glittering sphere completes a full, sweeping orbit around the giant gas planet once every 33 hours. This rapid, ceaseless journey creates an incredibly tight, predictable rhythm, a flawless celestial clockwork ticking away endlessly in the freezing, absolute dark. It is a continuous, high-speed, looping path, weaving the bright moon through its own icy, glowing exhaust day after day, year after year. Because of this surprisingly swift orbital period, the moon is constantly refreshing the massive ring, laying down a totally new track of pristine ice with every lap. The sheer, physical kinetic energy of this journey is immense, driving the complex, delicate interactions between the moon, its constant ejector, and the sweeping gravity of its host. It is a breathless, beautiful, eternal marathon running cleanly through a sparkling, silent corridor of pure, bright frost. Despite this incredible, mind-bending speed, the moon's forward movement is strictly governed by an overwhelming, invisible, and inescapable force emanating from the exact center of its orbit. The giant planet's immense, sweeping gravity keeps the small world tightly wrapped in its grip, a fascinating physical phenomenon scientifically known as being tidally locked. This powerful, invisible gravitational tether dictates not just the moon's curving path, but its very physical orientation in the freezing, empty dark. This inescapable lock means that as it races along its orbit, the moon is physically forced to keep one side permanently facing the massive, cloud-streaked host planet. It is locked in an eternal, unwavering gaze, never allowed to turn its bright back on the colossal gravitational master that completely commands its skies. The opposite, outward-facing hemisphere, meanwhile, forever looks out into the infinite, profoundly cold depths of deep, empty interstellar space. This permanent, strictly fixed alignment creates a profound, invisible duality on the Moon's surface, establishing a leading hemisphere that constantly ploughs into the microscopic dust. The unyielding tidal lock ensures that the massive gravitational stresses continuously pulling on the Moon's deep interior remain perfectly concentrated and entirely consistent. It is a silent, unending, and deeply beautiful submission to the overwhelming, inescapable mass of the giant planetary neighbour. As the freshly ejected frost slowly drifts further away from its bright source, a significant portion is pulled inexorably inward by that same overwhelming planetary gravity. These stray, floating particles eventually spiral downward toward the inner orbits, encountering the desolate, heavily cratered surface of a neighbouring much darker moon named Mimas. This gentle, relentless rain of microscopic, pure ice fundamentally and permanently changes the visual appearance of this battered, ancient world. Over millions of quiet years, this continuous cosmic precipitation creates a bright, highly reflective, snowy coating heavily distributed across the trailing hemisphere of the neighbouring rock. It acts precisely like a soft white concealer, subtly softening the sharp, violent edges of ancient impact craters and significantly brightening the dark, dusty terrain. The pure frost gently transferred from the active world literally paints a massive, bright streak entirely across its silent, orbiting companion. Notice how the grand universe constantly creates these profound, unexpected connections, allowing the water from one hidden ocean to eventually fall as snow upon another distant sky. This subtle, ongoing transfer of material is a quiet, beautiful testament to the far-reaching influence of the tiny, bright jewel of the outer solar system. It is a gentle, totally frozen kiss, blown silently across millions of miles of empty, freezing space to a waiting neighbour. This profound geological trauma is not randomly scattered but concentrated entirely at the southern pole, creating a region of intense, chaotic disruption. The sheer scale of these parallel wounds completely disrupts the otherwise pristine, unbroken mirror of the outer crust. It is a stark, jarring contrast to the quiet beauty above, a region where the planetary shell has violently surrendered to unimaginable internal pressures. Deep within this scarred territory, the ice is continuously shattered and broken, forming a highly unstable and treacherous landscape. The alignment of the massive cracks suggests a highly organised, relentless force tearing the southern crust apart from the inside out. This localised devastation fundamentally alters the Moon's symmetry, crowning its southern pole with a permanent jagged crown of broken ice. Because of their striking parallel alignment and heavily contrasting visual nature, this structure of prominent fissures is intimately known to observing scientists as the tiger stripes. Against the blindingly white canvas of the surrounding undisturbed ice, these dark, sweeping lines stand out with a fierce, almost predatory distinctiveness. The nickname perfectly captures the raw, feral energy etched permanently into the otherwise serene, frozen planetary surface. When captured by passing orbital cameras, the distinctive striped pattern instantly became one of the most recognizable and iconic geological formations in the outer solar system. The prominent dark bands weaving through the bright snow look exactly like the striking warning coloration of a massive resting apex predator. It is a beautiful, highly evocative title for a region that actively breathes life into the surrounding empty void. Notice how the universe frequently mimics the beautiful organic patterns found in nature on Earth across completely alien, deeply frozen landscapes. The stark, striped geometry gives the southern pole an intimidating, majestic character that commands immediate, unbroken attention from anyone studying the planet. These prominent dark bands are the undisputed beating heart of the tiny moon's incredible, ongoing geological activity. As you lie still, feeling the gentle rise and fall of your chest, imagine the sheer physical scale required to crack a world wide open. Each individual stripe stretches for approximately 130 kilometers across the thick icy crust, tearing a long, devastating path through the frozen landscape. This staggering length means a single fracture could easily span the entire distance between major human cities on our own planet. The unrelenting linear progression of these deep gouges shows absolutely no sign of stopping or shallowing out as they slice through the southern terrain. They run parallel to one another with a terrifying, almost mathematical precision, maintaining their immense stretching length across the curvature of the small sphere. It is a display of sustained tectonic power that permanently alters the structural integrity of the entire southern hemisphere. Tracing the massive length of these sweeping lines reveals a planetary shell that has been stretched to its absolute breaking limit. The sheer distance they cover indicates that whatever forces are ripping the crust apart are acting on a truly global, overwhelmingly massive scale. They are enormous, unhealing scars that proudly declare the moon's restless, churning interior to the silent cosmos. Peering closer at the dark, jagged edges of these massive wounds, the true, terrifying volume of the missing ice becomes breathtakingly apparent. They are roughly 2 kilometers wide from rim to rim, forming massive, gaping chasms that expose the hidden layers of the moon's thick outer shell. Furthermore, they plunge a dizzying 500 meters deep into the surface, creating steep, sheer cliffs of perfectly solid, frozen water. If you were to stand cautiously at the very edge of one of these staggering precipices, the opposite side would appear as a distant, hazy wall of white, the sheer, terrifying drop down into the dark. Plunging valleys would easily swallow the tallest human skyscrapers whole without a single trace. This incredible width and profound depth turn the massive stripes into monumental plunging canyons of eternal night. Deep down within these plunging ravines, the faint, distant sunlight struggles to penetrate, leaving the jagged valley floors cloaked in heavy, permanent shadow. The massive, exposed walls of these deep canyons provide a pristine, vertical cross-section of the moon's historical geological layers. It is a harsh, incredibly extreme topography, an abyss carved out of solid ice by relentless, invisible hands. Let your body relax completely, embracing the surrounding stillness, while acknowledging the surprising hidden fire burning brightly within this frozen world. Surprisingly, when scanned with specialized instruments, thermal imaging reveals these dark fractures radiate an astonishing amount of highly localized heat. Against the profoundly cold, cryogenic backdrop of the moon's icy shell, these deep gouges practically glow with a fierce, unexpected thermal intensity. This ominous, invisible glow of geothermal energy paints the deep ravines as blazing infernos in the eyes of infrared cameras monitoring the planet. The immense radiating warmth sharply outlines the jagged edges of the canyons, proving that the brutal cold of the surface is fighting a losing battle against the interior. It is a stunning, dramatic revelation that completely shatters the illusion of a totally dead, frozen rock floating silently in space. The concentrated pockets of intense heat are strictly confined to the plunging depths of the dark fissures, creating sharp, extreme temperature boundaries. Stepping from the surrounding plains to the edge of the chasm would result in a massive, instantaneous surge of radiating thermal energy. This shocking, localized heat signature is the smoking gun, the definitive proof of a restless churning furnace operating just out of sight. To organize and map this treacherous, blazing landscape, cartographers reached into human history to bestow titles worthy of such majestic, powerful formations. The massive parallel stripes are formally, yet poetically, named Alexandria, Cairo, Baghdad, and Damascus, honouring ancient, enduring centres of earthly civilization. Assigning the names of bustling, warm desert cities to freezing alien canyons creates a beautiful poetic juxtaposition in the scientific logs. Each uniquely named fissure possesses its own distinct personality, with slight variations in thermal output and geological roughness along their massive plunging lengths. The grand titles elevate these tectonic scars from mere planetary anomalies to legendary mapped destinations within the wider solar system. It bridges the massive, uncrossable gulf between our own rich, human heritage and the desolate, untouched reality of the outer planets. Navigating mentally from the glowing trench of Alexandria to the jagged, steaming edges of Damascus, one can map the intense, chaotic heart of the southern pole. These powerful names serve as permanent terrestrial anchors in a profoundly alien environment, guiding future explorers through the treacherous, fractured ice. They stand as silent, freezing monuments to human curiosity, permanently etched into the dark, trailing hemisphere of a distant world. Venturing down into the crushing, shadowy depths of these newly named chasms, the environment undergoes a radical, completely unexpected transformation. Down inside these plunging, dark valleys, the ambient temperatures are significantly, measurably higher than the eternally frozen surrounding plains. While the flat ice above remains locked in a bitter, absolute deep freeze, the deep canyon floors bask in a relative geothermal spring. This incredible localized warming effect is strong enough to completely alter the physical properties of the ice lining the deep, narrow trenches. The intense radiating heat softens the frozen walls, creating a humid, almost sweltering microclimate totally isolated from the surrounding cryogenic vacuum. It is an oasis of surprising warmth, hidden away at the bottom of the world, sheltered by towering sheer cliffs of solid frost. Allow your mind to sink deeply into that comforting hidden warmth, letting go of any lingering tension in your resting muscles. The stark difference in temperature creates fierce, invisible thermal updrafts, driving invisible currents of energy straight out of the dark, plunging ravines. This pocket of intense heat is the literal breath of the moon, escaping the crushing confines of its icy outer prison. The sheer, chaotic boundaries of these blazing canyons are not flat, clean drops, but are heavily guarded by massive, towering barricades. Flanking the dark stripes are vast, rolling ridges of completely accumulated ice and pristine snow, piled incredibly high by countless past eruptions. These massive frozen dunes run parallel to the fissures, forming continuous towering mountain ranges built entirely from freshly ejected falling debris. Every time the hidden interior vents its pressure, the heaviest falling snow inevitably cascades right back down, piling heavily along the jagged edges of the deep trenches. Over thousands of years, this continuous heavy snowfall has built up these sprawling ridges, creating a soft, rolling landscape that immediately surrounds the violent gashes. It is a beautiful, deeply contrasting environment, where the softest, purest powder blankets the sharpest, most dangerous cliffs. These towering banks of fresh white snow completely insulate the glowing canyons, acting like massive frozen walls containing the intense localized heat. The sprawling ridges cast long, beautiful shadows across the southern pole, highlighting the incredible dynamic forces constantly reshaping the local terrain. They are silent, massive monuments to the moon's ongoing restless activity, a historical record written entirely in freshly fallen frost. In any normal, freezing environment, massive bodies of liquid or exposed warmth would rapidly solidify, sealing these giant wounds closed forever. However, the relentless, continuous tectonic stress generated directly by the host planet prevents these giant glowing cracks from ever freezing shut. The massive, invisible gravitational tides constantly stretch and squeeze the tiny moon, forcing the thick, icy crust to continuously flex and buckle. This brutal, ongoing massage generates immense, internal friction, pulling the parallel ridges apart just as quickly as the freezing temperatures attempt to bind them together. The dark, gaping fissures are essentially massive, open wounds that are never allowed to properly heal under the giant planet's punishing, inescapable grip. It is a violent, perpetual struggle between the absolute crippling cold of space and the relentless, driving mechanical force of celestial gravity. Notice how this incredible, invisible tension, keeps the moon locked in a permanent state of highly active geological vulnerability. The massive glowing canyons are forced to remain wide open, serving as permanent gaping exhaust valves for the incredible churning pressures building up inside. This delicate, violent balance ensures the southern pole remains a shattered, leaking landscape for as long as the orbital dance continues. The profound, concentrated location and strictly parallel alignment of these blazing canyons present a massive, perplexing puzzle to planetary geologists. The unique, highly localized arrangement of the violent fractures strongly suggests the moon's outer, frozen shell is completely, physically decoupled from its solid rocky core. Instead of being firmly attached, the massive crust of ice is sliding and shifting independently, floating freely above the deeper internal structures. Take a deep, final breath of relaxation, knowing that beneath the rigid surface of things, profound, fluid freedom often exists. This total physical separation implies that a massive global lubricating layer must exist entirely between the outer ice and the inner rock, allowing the massive shell to move. The resulting friction from this disconnected floating crust perfectly explains why the southern pole is bearing the absolute brunt of the tidal devastation. This startling revelation transforms the bright frozen sphere from a simple solid rock into an incredibly complex multi-layered machine. The outer shattered shell is essentially a massive moving puzzle piece, slipping and sliding over a hidden dark interior that we cannot directly see. It is a profound, paradigm-shifting realization, confirming that the most breathtaking, violent secrets of this world are buried far beneath its glowing striped surface. Those violent secrets buried beneath that glowing striped surface eventually find their way to the light, tearing through the frozen crust in a display of raw celestial power. Giant geysers continuously erupt from the profound depths of those massive tectonic gashes, venting the moon's internal pressure into the cold vacuum of space. These silent, towering fountains of water and ice act as a direct window into the hidden, churning world that exists far below the protective ice shell. Imagine the sheer force required to propel liquid through miles of solid ice, only to have it transform instantly into a glittering spray of frost. This process of cryovolcanism is a relentless, ongoing performance, ensuring that the moon's southern pole is never truly at rest. It is a world that breathes, exhaling its own substance in a series of magnificent ghostly plumes that reach high into the dark, starry sky. This constant venting creates a bridge between the dark, pressurized depths of the interior and the infinite emptiness of the surrounding universe. Each eruption is a testament to the incredible energy stored within this small sphere, a force that refuses to be silenced by the crushing weight of the ice. It is a landscape defined by movement and change, where the very ground beneath your feet is a conduit for the moon's restless spirit. These cryovolcanic plumes do not merely drift upward, they blast material into the void at speeds exceeding 1,000 kilometers per hour. This velocity is so immense that it challenges our terrestrial understanding of how liquid and gas behave when released from a high-pressure environment. The sheer kinetic energy behind these eruptions is a direct reflection of the powerful tidal forces twisting the moon's deep interior. As the mixture of water vapor and ice crystals escapes the narrow fissures, it accelerates with a violent, unseen intensity that defies the surrounding silence. Much of this material moves fast enough to completely overcome the moon's weak gravitational pull, embarking on an eternal journey into the Saturnian system. It is a high-speed exit from the dark, cold depths, a sudden and dramatic transition from the pressurized ocean to the weightless freedom of space. Surprisingly, the universe has found a way to turn a tiny frozen rock into a powerful, high-velocity cannon that continuously fires its own substance into the night. This speed ensures that the plumes reach incredible altitudes, towering hundreds of kilometers above the southern pole before they begin to disperse. It is a terrifyingly beautiful display of physics, where the cold, quiet surface masks a mechanism of incredible driving speed. Mapping this chaotic activity reveals a dense forest of fountains, with at least 100 distinct geyser jets having been identified erupting from the fractures. Each jet emerges from a specific point along the deep chasms, contributing its own unique stream to the massive collective plume that dominates the southern sky. This distribution of activity proves that the entire southern polar region is a single, interconnected engine of geological energy. As you continue to relax, feel the weight of your body becoming as anchored and still as the ancient rocky core beneath the moon's shifting layers. The sheer number of these individual eruptions creates a complex, overlapping web of vapor and ice that blankets the southern hemisphere in a permanent, shimmering mist. It is a world of 100 voices, each one a silent scream of pressurized water, escaping its frozen prison to reach the stars. If we were to look closer, we would see that these jets are not static, but shift and change in intensity over time as the fissures flex. This dynamic map of activity provides scientists with a real-time record of the stresses acting on the moon's crust as it orbits its giant host. The 100 jets act as a sprawling natural laboratory, offering endless data about the hidden, liquid world that lies just beneath the striped terrain. The scale of this mass loss is truly staggering when viewed through the lens of planetary duration and substance. The plumes eject roughly 200 kilograms of water vapor and ice every single second into the freezing environment of the outer solar system. This constant shedding of material means the moon is perpetually shrinking, albeit at a rate so slow it would take billions of years to vanish entirely. This massive output of water ensures that the surrounding space is never truly empty, but is instead filled with a constant replenishing supply of fresh frost. Every second that passes represents a significant transfer of internal ocean material to the external, celestial environment. It is a relentless, driving heartbeat of matter, pulse after pulse of frozen spray being rhythmically pushed out into the surrounding dark. This volume of material is what feeds the massive E-ring we explored earlier, providing the raw substance for that ghostly sprawling disk. The 200 kilograms lost every second is the price the moon pays for its incredible activity, a sacrifice of its own body to maintain the beauty of its surroundings. It is a profound, ongoing transformation of a solid world into a diffuse glowing cloud of crystalline history. While much of the ejected material escapes into space, a significant portion of this icy debris cannot overcome the moon's local gravity. Much of this ejected snow falls directly back onto the surface, creating a brilliantly white, untouched landscape that is constantly being refreshed. This localized weather system results in a continuous heavy snowfall that blankets the southern pole in a layer of the purest, most reflective powder in existence. This falling frost buries any ancient features, filling in small cracks and smoothing out the rugged edges of the tectonic fractures over time. It creates a surreal, dreamlike environment where the ground is composed of freshly fallen stars, soft and unblemished by the passage of eons. The landscape is a masterpiece of renewal, where every eruption serves to repave the world in a fresh coat of blinding, pristine white. Notice how the soft, accumulating drifts of this alien snow create a sense of profound, muffled silence across the southern plains. The terrain is a vast, rolling field of powder, hiding the violent origins of the material beneath a mask of serene winter beauty. This falling ice is the physical memory of the hidden ocean, returning to the surface to protect the secrets that still lie in the dark below. In one of the most daring feats of modern exploration, the Cassini spacecraft actually flew directly through these towering silent eruptions. Navigating through the dense, freezing spray of the plumes, the probe acted as a surrogate for human touch in a world billions of kilometers away. This close encounter allowed us to see the fountains not as distant blurs, but as massive physical structures of moving matter. The spacecraft braved the high-velocity grains of ice, and the thick clouds of vapor to capture images and data from the heart of the storm. This mission turned a mysterious light in the sky into a tangible physical place that we could measure, map, and begin to truly understand. It was a moment of profound connection between two worlds, a bridge built by human curiosity and mechanical precision across the cold void. This fly-through confirmed that the plumes were not merely gas, but contained solid particles and liquid droplets that had frozen instantly upon release. The data sent back across the solar system changed our perspective on habitability forever, proving that some of the most exciting places in the universe are not planets, but tiny, active moons. It was a triumph of exploration that allowed us to finally peek behind the curtain of the moon's brilliant icy exterior. As the probe navigated the whiteout of the eruptions, this daring maneuver allowed instruments to physically taste the ocean spray. By capturing the particles directly, the spacecraft was able to analyze the chemical composition of the water without ever needing to land on the surface. This unique sampling method provided a direct, uncontaminated link to the chemistry of the hidden global ocean. Allow your mind to drift as easily as those sampled particles, feeling a sense of deep, effortless connection to the wider, unfolding universe. The instruments detected salts, minerals, and organic molecules within the spray, confirming that the water below is remarkably similar to our own terrestrial seas. It was as if the moon was offering a sample of its lifeblood to the passing traveller, revealing its most intimate secrets through a simple, frozen mist. This act of tasting the ocean spray transformed our understanding of what lies beneath the ice, turning speculation into hard scientific fact. We no longer had to wonder if the water was salty or rich in nutrients. We had the physical evidence in our hands, or at least in our digital records. This direct contact with an alien ocean remains one of the most significant and evocative moments in the history of space science. The intensity of these spectacular displays is not constant, but follows a predictable rhythmic cycle governed by the moon's movement. The volume of the plumes varies significantly depending on where Enceladus is in its elliptical orbit around the massive ringed planet. This variation proves that the geysers are not random, but are being actively throttled by the changing gravitational grip of Saturn. As the moon moves through its orbital path, the massive planet's gravity acts like a giant hand, squeezing and releasing the southern pole with every lap. This rhythmic pressure opens and closes the deep fissures, controlling the flow of vapor and ice from the interior like a massive celestial valve. The plumes wax and wane in a slow, graceful dance that matches the 33-hour cycle of the moon's journey. This variability is a crucial clue for scientists, allowing them to calculate exactly how the ice shell responds to external stress. It reveals a world that is deeply sensitive to its environment, a moon that reacts physically to the presence of its giant neighbour. The changing height and density of the fountains are the visible signs of this invisible, gravitational conversation happening in the dark. The most dramatic phase of this cycle occurs when the moon reaches its furthest point from the giant planet's crushing influence. When the moon is farthest from Saturn, the fissures are pulled wider open by the release of tidal pressure, dramatically increasing the intensity of the eruptions. In this state of relative relaxation, the internal ocean finds it easier to break through the crust and surge into the vacuum. Surprisingly, the universe has designed a system where the weakest gravitational pull results in the most violent and spectacular output of material. During this part of the orbit, the tiger stripes gape at their widest, allowing the towering fountains to reach their maximum height and density. It is a period of peak activity, where the southern pole is lit by the fire of 100 roaring silent geysers. This correlation between distance and eruption strength confirms that the ice shell is flexible and highly responsive to the forces acting upon it. It shows that the moon's activity is a delicate balance of internal pressure and external gravity, a mechanical system perfectly tuned to its orbital path. The wider cracks serve as a temporary release for the moon's energy, a brief window of freedom before it is squeezed shut once again. The final visual element of this dramatic performance occurs when the distant sunlight catches these fountains at just the right angle. Sunlight backlights these immense plumes, creating a breathtaking, ghostly glow that stands out sharply against the absolute blackness of the space. This optical effect transforms the eruptions into ethereal, glowing curtains of light that seem to hang suspended above the southern pole. From a distance, the moon appears to have a soft, luminous tail or a shimmering atmosphere that clings to its lower half like a radiant frozen mist. This backlighting reveals the true density and complexity of the plumes, highlighting the intricate swirls and patterns within the rising vapour. It is a moment of pure celestial art, where light and water collaborate to reveal the invisible breadth of a hidden world. The contrast between the bright glowing fountains and the deep shadowed chasms below creates a scene of unparalleled quiet majesty in the outer solar system. It is a reminder that even in the coldest, darkest reaches of space, there are moments of profound brilliance and beauty waiting to be discovered. This ghostly radiance is the crowning glory of the moon's activity, a final luminous signal of the life-giving warmth hidden deep within. That life-giving warmth hidden deep within the core is not a mere localized anomaly, but the engine driving a gargantuan miracle of physics. Beneath the frozen, unyielding crust lies a vast global ocean of liquid water that spans the entire circumference of the moon without interruption. This is not a collection of isolated lakes or trapped pockets of moisture, but a continuous planet-wide abyss that remains liquid despite the absolute zero of the surrounding space. It is a world of eternal midnight, where the water exists in a state of suspended animation, cradled by the crushing embrace of the outer shell. This immense body of water wraps around the rocky centre like a fluid blanket, protected from the vacuum by miles of solid ice. Every square inch of the moon's interior is touched by this sea, creating a subterranean environment that is as vast as it is mysterious. Imagine the stillness of this dark world, where no wind blows and no sunlight ever reaches the churning depths. This global sea represents a profound shift in our understanding of where water can exist in the universe, proving that even the coldest reaches of space can harbour liquid hearts. It is a silent, sprawling sanctuary of fluid matter, waiting in the dark to reveal its secrets to the stars above. Deep within this subterranean realm, the scale of the water's volume is truly breathtaking for such a diminutive celestial body. This hidden sea is estimated to be around 10 kilometers deep, a distance that would easily swallow the highest mountains on our own planet. If you were to descend into these waters, you would find yourself in a vertical wilderness of staggering proportions, far deeper than most of the trenches in Earth's oceans. The sheer verticality of this ocean allows for massive volumes of fluid to interact with the geological foundations of the moon's core. Pressure increases with every metre of descent, creating a stratified environment where chemistry and temperature vary significantly from top to bottom. This depth provides a stable buffer, insulating the lower reaches of the ocean from any sudden changes occurring on the frozen surface far above. This 10-kilometre abyss is a realm of high-pressure currents and slow rhythmic circulation that keeps the water in constant motion. It is a space large enough to house entire ecosystems should they exist, providing ample room for the complex interactions of life and geology. The immense scale of this depth transforms the moon from a simple rock into a world of profound three-dimensional complexity. Protecting this precious liquid treasure from the freezing radioactive environment of the outer solar system is a formidable planetary barrier. A thick shell of ice, measuring up to 30 kilometers thick in some places, acts as a protective ceiling that seals the ocean away from the gaze of the sun. This monumental armour of frost is as hard as bedrock, providing the structural integrity needed to withstand the constant violent gravitational tugging of Saturn. It serves as both a prison and a sanctuary, ensuring the liquid below remains insulated and stable for millions of years at a time. This ice is not merely a covering, but a complex geological feature with its own mountains, valleys, and internal stresses. The thickness of this shell varies across the globe, creating a landscape of hidden pressure points and massive, unyielding plains of solid water. Within this frozen ceiling, the weight of the ice creates an immense downward force that defines the environment of the water below. It is a ceiling of staggering proportions, a roof of ice that spans an entire world and keeps the warmth of the core from escaping into the void. This massive barrier is the primary guardian of the moon's habitability, a frozen shield that preserves the liquid heart within. Surprisingly, this massive icy fortress is not uniform in its strength or thickness across the moon's curved and fractured surface. At the South Pole, this ice shell thins dramatically to just a few kilometers, creating a fragile window where the internal pressure can finally reach the light. As you lie still, feeling the weight of your own limbs sinking into a state of deep relaxation, consider how this thinning ice allows the moon to breathe. This structural weakness is the literal gateway for the geysers, a place where the barrier between the hidden ocean and the cosmos is at its most delicate. The reduction in thickness is a result of the intense tidal heating concentrated at the pole, which melts the ice from the inside out. This creates a focused point of activity, a geological valve that prevents the moon's internal pressure from building up to catastrophic levels. The thinning ice at the pole acts as a natural laboratory, allowing us to study the ocean's chemistry without having to drill through miles of solid rock-hard frost. It is a unique feature of the moon's geography, a place where the hidden depths are tantalizingly close to the surface. This regional thinning is the secret behind the plumes, providing the path of least resistance for the water to escape its icy cage. This hidden existence was not revealed by direct sight or physical sampling, but through the subtle, rhythmic movements of the moon itself. The presence of a global ocean was confirmed by measuring the moon's tiny orbital wobbles with the precision of a master watchmaker. By tracking the moon's position with extreme accuracy over several years, scientists noticed a slight swaying motion that defied the expectations of a solid sphere. This cosmic vibration, barely perceptible to anything but the most sensitive instruments, was the telltale sign of a liquid heart beating beneath the ribs of the exterior. If the moon was solid ice all the way to its core, it would rotate with a stiff, predictable uniformity that would leave no room for such oscillations. The wobble proved that the outer shell was not firmly attached to the rocky center, but was sliding over a fluid layer. It was a triumph of celestial mechanics, using the laws of physics to see through miles of solid ice to the water hidden below. This detection method turned the entire moon into a diagnostic tool, revealing its internal structure through its external behavior. The orbital wobble was the quiet whisper of the ocean, a signal sent across the void to confirm the existence of a hidden sea. This specific swaying motion, known to astronomers as libration, provided the definitive proof that the outer layers are physically independent of the core. This slight libration proved the outer crust was floating freely on a liquid layer, sliding over the ocean like a massive ice floe on a terrestrial lake. Because the shell is not anchored to the rocky center, it can sway and shift as it responds to the massive gravitational pull of the ringed giant. This fluid disconnect is the fundamental secret to the moon's incredible geological activity and its ability to maintain a liquid ocean. The crust acts as a free-floating entity, absorbing the energy of the tides by flexing and shifting rather than remaining a rigid, brittle block. It is a world in constant, subtle motion, where the ground beneath the surface is never truly still. This decoupling allows the ice shell to rotate at a slightly different speed than the core, creating a friction that generates even more internal heat. It is a beautiful, self-sustaining system of motion and energy that keeps the ocean from freezing solid in the deep cold of space. The free-floating crust is the primary driver of the moon's unique features, allowing it to remain active and alive in a frozen neighborhood. Beyond its mere existence, the chemical nature of this water offers a tantalizingly familiar connection to our own blue home in the solar system. The ocean water is remarkably salty, bearing a striking resemblance to Earth's own seas in both its mineral composition and its overall density. Feel the steady rhythm of your own pulse, a reminder that the same basic salts flowing through your veins are currently sloshing in the darkness of a moon billions of miles away. This salinity is not just a coincidence, but a direct result of the water-leaching minerals from the rocky core over billions of years of contact. It creates a briny environment that is chemically active, providing the necessary ions and compounds for complex molecular reactions to occur. This saltiness also lowers the freezing point of the water, helping it to remain liquid even in the extreme cold of the outer reaches. The resemblance to Earth's oceans makes Enceladus one of the most promising places in the universe to search for life as we know it. We're not looking at an alien chemical soup, but at a sea that would feel remarkably familiar to any terrestrial explorer. This salty reality bridges the gap between our world and the moon, turning a distant light into a recognizable oceanic neighbor. Enormous pressure from the overlying ice keeps the dark waters flowing and circulating in a constant underwater dance of immense energy. The weight of the 30-kilometer thick shell pushes down with staggering force, while the heat from the core pushes back from the bottom of the sea. This creates a perpetual cycle of convection, preventing the ocean from ever becoming a stagnant or dead pool of water. Instead, this sea is a churning, dynamic environment where nutrients and heat are distributed evenly through every square kilometre of the hidden abyss. This circulation ensures that the chemistry of the ocean is uniform, carrying the minerals from the seafloor up to the icy ceiling where they can be ejected into space. It is a world of constant movement, a deep-sea weather system that operates in total, pressurized darkness. Visualize these slow, powerful currents moving through the deep, carrying the warmth of the moon's heart to the cold exterior. The pressure is the primary driver of this circulation, acting as a massive pump that keeps the ocean's lifeblood moving. It is a stable, rhythmic flow that has likely continued for millions of years, maintaining the moon's internal balance against the harshness of space. While this moon is small enough to fit within the borders of a single terrestrial state, its watery heart is surprisingly massive and significant. The volume of this subsurface sea rivals the amount of water found in Lake Superior, the largest of Earth's Great Lakes. This comparison helps to ground the scale of the moon's hidden wealth, showing that even a tiny world can harbour a gargantuan reservoir of liquid matter. Tucked away beneath its brilliant white exterior, this volume of water is concentrated into a global layer that spans the entire planetoid. It is a staggering amount of liquid to be held within such a small celestial body, representing a significant portion of the moon's total mass. This density of water makes the moon a unique object in the solar system, a small sphere that is more ocean than it is rock. This vast volume ensures that the ocean is a stable and enduring feature of the moon's anatomy, resistant to sudden changes in temperature or pressure. It provides a massive thermal reservoir that stores the heat generated by the tides, releasing it slowly over time to keep the crust from freezing. The scale of this sea is a testament to the moon's incredible capacity to harbour and protect the most precious substance in the universe. The global nature of this sea creates a unique physical environment where the liquid water touches both the icy ceiling above and the rocky floor below. This means the ocean is in constant direct contact with two completely different types of geological surfaces, facilitating a complex and ongoing exchange of chemistry. On the upper boundary, the water carves into the ice, while on the lower boundary, it seeps into the porous rock of the moon's ancient core. As you sink into the final stages of total comfort, imagine the vast, silent scale of this dual contact zone that turns the hidden ocean into a massive natural laboratory. The water acts as a universal solvent, carrying minerals from the rock to the ice and vice versa in an endless cycle of chemical interaction. This makes the ocean a highly reactive environment, far more dynamic than a sea contained within a single type of material. By touching both the core and the crust, the ocean serves as the primary conduit for the moon's internal energy, moving heat from the centre to the surface. It is the connective tissue of the moon, linking the deep, rocky interior to the cold, frozen exterior in a single fluid system. This final realization of the ocean's global reach completes our understanding of the moon as a unified living world of water and ice. This unified living world of water and ice finds its enduring vitality through an invisible, mechanical pulse that defies the absolute stillness of the void. The great secret to this moon's liquid ocean is a relentless process called tidal heating, a phenomenon where the kinetic energy of an orbit is transformed into a steady, radiating warmth. It is a fundamental conversion of motion into temperature, a way for the universe to breathe heat into a place that should be eternally frozen. This invisible engine operates without rest, generating a thermal reservoir that counters the crushing, icy weight of the outer shell. Every kilometre of the moon's journey around its massive host serves to fuel this internal fire, proving that movement is the essential ingredient for a liquid heart. It is the silent driving force that bridges the gap between the rocky centre and the frozen exterior, maintaining the delicate balance of a world in flux. Deep within the core, this tidal energy manifests as a rhythmic surge of power that keeps the subterranean waters from settling into a permanent solid state. It is a magnificent display of planetary physics, showing how a world can draw its lifeblood directly from the gravitational fields of its neighbours. This process ensures that the moon remains a dynamic, evolving entity rather than a cold, static relic of a distant past. Enceladus does not perform this intricate dance of energy alone, but is caught in a tight gravitational embrace with a much larger partner. The tiny moon is trapped in a permanent orbital resonance with a larger neighbouring moon named Dione, a massive icy sphere that exerts a constant, unwavering influence. This partnership is the essential catalyst for the mechanical stress that drives the moon's internal heating cycle. As these two bodies navigate the Saturnian system, their gravitational fields interlock, creating a predictable and inescapable rhythm of attraction and repulsion. This neighbourly tugging prevents the smaller moon from settling into a simple circular path, forcing it into a more complex and strenuous trajectory. The presence of Dione is a constant reminder that no celestial body exists in total isolation, as the gravity of one world can dictate the internal climate of another. This structure of mutual influence ensures that the orbital paths of both moons remain synchronized across millions of kilometers of empty space. It is a beautiful, invisible tether that links the fate of the small, bright jewel to the larger, darker companion orbiting further out. Without the persistent gravitational presence of Dione, the engine of the inner world would eventually lose its momentum and stall forever. Surprisingly, the universe has composed this gravitational duet with the precision of a master clockmaker, ensuring the timing of every lap is perfectly aligned. For every single orbit that the larger Dione completes around the massive planet, Enceladus circles Saturn exactly twice. This 2-to-1 mathematical ratio creates a recurring alignment that amplifies the gravitational pull felt by the smaller moon at regular, predictable intervals. This rhythmic overlap acts like a cosmic swing, where each passing of the larger moon provides a precisely timed push to the smaller one. It is a flawless display of celestial choreography, where the movements of two separate worlds are locked into a single shared harmonic frequency. This resonance prevents the smaller moon's orbit from decaying or rounding out, preserving the very stress that generates its internal warmth. Picture the incredible consistency of this cycle, continuing for eons without losing a single beat in the silence of the outer reaches. The mathematical purity of this relationship is the foundation of the moon's liquid ocean, providing the steady pulsing energy needed to keep the waters flowing. It is a mechanical heartbeat that resonates through every mile of ice and rock, a testament to the structured beauty of our solar system. This persistent gravitational dance forces the smaller moon, into an eccentric, slightly oval-shaped orbit, rather than a perfect circle. Because the path is elongated, the distance between the Moon and the massive ringed planet is constantly changing as it completes its 33-hour journey. This slight eccentricity is the primary reason the Moon experiences varying levels of intensity from the planet's overwhelming gravitational field. If the path were a perfect circle, the gravitational pull would be a constant, unvarying force that would eventually lead to a cold, geological equilibrium. Instead, the oval shape ensures that the Moon is never truly at rest, as it is perpetually falling toward or drifting away from its massive host. This constant variation in distance is what keeps the internal structure of the Moon in a state of perpetual rhythmic motion. As the Moon navigates this elliptical corridor, it experiences a sequence of stretching and squeezing that defines its physical existence. It is a path of constant change, where the geometry of the orbit dictates the thermal state of the entire world. This slightly imperfect circle is the essential flaw that allows for the creation of heat in a neighbourhood dominated by the deep freeze. As you rest quietly, allow your mind to sink into the deep, rhythmic groaning of rock and ice flexing under the weight of planetary gravity. As it moves closer and then further from Saturn, immense gravitational tides physically stretch and squeeze the Moon with staggering power. This global deformation is a slow, silent massage that affects every molecule of the Moon's structure, from the frozen surface down to the solid core. Feel the tension in your own body releasing as you imagine the Moon yielding to these titanic forces, its very shape changing as it orbits the giant. The ice shell buckles and the rocky interior groans under the strain of being pulled by an invisible planetary hand. This is not a subtle effect, but a massive physical distortion that would be catastrophic for a larger, more rigid world. This constant flexing is the heart of the tidal engine, the mechanical movement that will eventually be translated into the warmth of the hidden sea. It is a rhythmic planetary labour that never ceases, a cycle of compression and expansion that defines the Moon's internal anatomy. The groaning of the ice is the voice of a world that is being kept alive by the very forces that threaten to tear it apart. Deep within the centre of the sphere, this constant flexing generates massive amounts of internal friction within the rocky core. As the rock layers are stretched and squeezed, the individual grains rub against one another with incredible pressure, producing heat through pure mechanical resistance. It is the same principle that warms your hands when you rub them together, but on a scale that involves the mass of an entire celestial body. This friction acts as a global internal furnace, turning the kinetic energy of the orbit into a steady, reliable source of thermal radiation. The rocky core becomes a reservoir of warmth, absorbing the energy of the tides and releasing it slowly into the surrounding liquid ocean. It is a subterranean forge where the motion of the heavens is forged into the heat of a planet, a miracle of friction in the dark. If we were to look closer at the molecular level, we would see a world of intense agitation, where the stillness of the rock is an illusion. The core is a place of constant microscopic movement, a hive of activity that keeps the internal temperature high enough to sustain a liquid state. This friction is the primary source of the Moon's enduring spirit, a flame that burns brightly despite the crushing cold of the vacuum above. This relentless internal friction produces enough heat to melt the ice and sustain the global ocean across billions of years of history. The heat radiates outward from the core, maintaining the water in its liquid form and preventing the thick ice shell from encroaching any further. It is a delicate thermal tug-of-war, where the warmth from the centre perfectly balances the freezing influence of the outer space. This balance ensures that the ocean remains a permanent feature of the Moon, a stable environment that has likely existed for the majority of the solar system's lifespan. The heat does more than just melt the ice. It drives the circulation of the water, carrying minerals and energy to every corner of the hidden abyss. It is the lifeblood of the world, a warm current that flows through the dark, keeping the Moon's heart beating. Surprisingly, The universe has found a way to use the very gravity that could crush a world to instead keep it liquid and thriving. This heat is the reason we see the plumes and the tiger stripes, the visible evidence of an internal struggle that has been won by the warmth. It is a triumph of energy over entropy, a testament to the power of motion to preserve the most precious of substances. Without this orbital tug-of-war and the constant infusion of tidal energy, the moon would have frozen solid billions of years ago. It would be a cold, dead ball of ice, as silent and inert as the thousands of other small objects drifting in the outer reaches. Allow your body to feel the profound stability and warmth of your own rest, knowing that even in the coldest void, there are engines of heat that never fail. The alternative to tidal heating is a state of absolute geological death, where all internal movement ceases and the ocean becomes a block of solid, unyielding ice. In that scenario, the geysers would fall silent, the tiger stripes would freeze shut, and the brilliant jewel would lose its dynamic spark forever. The gravitational dance with Dion is the only thing standing between a living ocean and an eternal icy tomb. The longevity of this heat source is what makes Enceladus such a significant target for the search for extraterrestrial life. It suggests an environment that has been stable and warm for enough time for complex chemistry to potentially evolve into something more. The orbital tug-of-war is not just a physical process, it is a guardian of time, preserving a liquid cradle across the eons. The scale of this mechanical energy is so immense that it has consistently defied the initial expectations of the scientific community. The heat generated within the moon is 10 times higher than what scientists initially predicted based on standard models of tidal heating. This massive energy surplus is one of the greatest remaining mysteries of the Saturnian system, suggesting that our understanding of planetary interiors is still incomplete. This structure of thermal excess makes the moon a fascinating outlier, a small world that punches far above its weight in terms of geological power. Every observation of the plumes and the warm fractures serves as a reminder of this missing piece of the puzzle, a surplus of energy that continues to challenge our brightest minds. It is a world that refuses to be explained by simple equations, a place of mystery and unexpected power. This internal furnace turns a tiny frozen rock into a dynamic, geologically active world that rivals the largest planets in its complexity. It is the definitive proof that size is not the only measure of a world's importance or its potential for wonder. Through the simple mechanics of an orbit and the friction of a core, the universe has created a masterpiece of activity in the quietest part of the solar system. The engine of the moon is a synthesis of gravity, motion and heat, a perfect machine that has been running for billions of years without a single pause. It is the reason the surface is so bright, why the plumes reach for the stars, and why a salty ocean exists in the heart of a frozen moon. This internal furnace is the soul of the world, the fire that keeps the darkness at bay. As you drift toward the final realizations of this journey, consider the moon not as a cold object, but as a living engine of energy. It is a testament to the fact that even in the most remote and hostile environments, the laws of physics can conspire to create a pocket of warmth and activity. This dynamic reality is the crowning achievement of the tidal engine, a small world that continues to shine with the light of its own internal fire. That internal fire does more than just melt the ice, it acts as a cosmic crucible, forging the very foundations of complexity in the absolute dark. When scientists meticulously analysed the material caught from the towering plumes, they discovered a startling treasury of complex carbon-rich organic molecules. These are not merely stray, random atoms drifting in the void, but intricate and purposeful arrangements of matter that form the fundamental alphabet of existence. This discovery suggests that the moon is not just a physical machine of heat and gravity, but a chemical laboratory of immense sophistication. Carbon, the essential architect of all known biological structures, is woven deeply into the fine spray of the hidden ocean. It transforms the moon from a distant frozen sphere into a place of profound molecular potential, where the ingredients for something greater are already present. If we were to look closer, we would see these carbon chains as the scaffolding of a hidden world, reaching across the cold divide to signal the possibility of life. This molecular richness is a beacon of hope in the deep freeze of the outer solar system, proving that the building blocks of the universe are universal and abundant even in the most remote locations. The presence of these organics confirms that the internal ocean is a site of active, ongoing chemical development, rather than a sterile graveyard of ancient rock and ice. Floating through the ethereal vapour of the geysers, simple compounds like methane, ammonia, and carbon dioxide move with a quiet, persistent freedom. These basic molecular building blocks are the precursors to complexity, existing in a state of constant fluid motion within the icy spray. Methane provides a potential source of metabolic energy, while ammonia hints at the ancient chemical history of the moon's formation and its unique environmental conditions. Carbon dioxide acts as a stable carrier of the carbon cycle, circulating through the hidden sea and the fractured crust before being released into the sky. These gases are the breath of the moon, exhaled from the pressurized depths into the absolute cold of the surrounding vacuum. They represent a fundamental chemistry that is both simple and essential, providing the raw materials for the more intricate structures found in the deeper waters. Surprisingly, the universe has hidden even more elaborate structures within this tiny frozen sanctuary of the outer planets. Beyond the simple gases, heavier organic macromolecules, some containing hundreds of individual atoms, were also discovered drifting in the plume material. These massive molecular chains are far more complex than anything previously expected to exist in such a remote and cold environment. They appear as intricate, microscopic architectures with rings and branches of carbon atoms locked together in a sophisticated and silent dance. Such large molecules are typically associated with complex chemical processes that require stability, liquid water, and a steady source of energy to form. Their presence indicates that the hidden ocean is not a stagnant pool, but a site of intense and productive molecular assembly. Allow your body to feel the stillness of your current environment while your mind drifts into the scale of these invisible giants, realizing that the moon's spray is rich with the blueprints of complexity, changes everything we thought we knew about the outer solar system. These macromolecules are the heavy hitters of the chemical world, proving that Enceladus is a heavyweight contender in the search for the origin of life beyond our own world. These building blocks of life are not mere remnants of the moon's formation, but are being actively synthesized deep within the churning interior. The high-pressure, high-temperature environment at the seafloor provides the perfect conditions for chemical reactions to weld smaller molecules into larger, more stable ones. This ongoing synthesis suggests a world that is chemically alive, constantly producing new organic matter through the rhythmic interaction of water and rock. It is a process of creation that happens in total darkness, fueled by the mechanical energy of the tides and the chemical energy of the core. The moon acts as a self-sustaining factory of organic complexity, churning out the precursors of biology beneath miles of protective ice. Every plume eruption is a delivery of these freshly minted molecules to the surface and the stars beyond, a message from the deep. It reveals a planetary interior that is a site of constant productive transformation, rather than a static graveyard of ancient materials. This synthesis is the heartbeat of the ocean's chemistry, ensuring that the supply of organic material is never exhausted. If we were to trace the path of these molecules, we would follow them from the scalding vents to the freezing sky, a journey of transformation that defines the very essence of this small, active moon. Deep within the crystalline structure of the icy grains, nitrogen was detected, marking another critical milestone in our understanding of this moon. This element is a vital component of amino acids and nucleic acids, the essential machinery of all living cells on our own home planet. Its presence in the frozen spray confirms that the hidden ocean contains the full palette of atoms required for biological construction and maintenance. Nitrogen molecules act as the connectors and bridges within the molecular world, allowing for the formation of stable and functional structures like DNA. As you feel the gentle, rhythmic weight of your body, consider the profound implications of finding such a terrestrial element in the heart of a Saturnian moon. It suggests that the chemistry of life is a universal language, spoken even in the most distant and frozen corners of our solar system. The detection of nitrogen completes a significant part of the puzzle, turning a chemical curiosity into a potential viable habitat. It is a quiet confirmation that the ingredients for life are not the exclusive property of the inner planets, but are spread throughout the cosmos. This nitrogen is the glue of complexity, holding together the potential for a world that is far more than just ice and stone. This structure of internal salinity is driven by dissolved sodium chloride, creating a sea that is remarkably similar to the ancient oceans of Earth. The salt is not just a minor additive, it is a primary characteristic of the water, influencing its density, its freezing point, and its overall chemical reactivity. This familiar briny quality is a direct result of the long-term, intimate interaction between the global ocean and the moon's rocky, mineral-rich core. It creates a stable chemical environment that is conducive to the same types of molecular interactions that occur in our own terrestrial waters every day. If we were to taste the spray of the plumes, we would find it surprisingly recognizable, a saltwater mist that echoes the shores of our own world. This similarity provides a sense of profound continuity across the vast distances of space, linking the liquid heart of a tiny moon to the great oceans of our home. It is a salty bridge that makes the alien environment of Enceladus feel suddenly and deeply approachable to human understanding. The salinity acts as a chemical stabilizer, preserving the delicate balance of the sea and allowing for the persistent movement of matter. This ocean is not an alien soup, but a cousin to our own, sharing a common heritage of salt and water that transcends the vacuum between our two worlds. Trace amounts of molecular hydrogen point to active, ongoing chemical reactions taking place at the very bottom of the hidden sea. This hydrogen is a byproduct of hydrothermal activity, where hot, pressurized water interacts with the minerals in the rocky seafloor through a process called serpentinization. Its presence is a smoking gun for a world that is geochemically active right now, rather than in the distant, unobservable past. The hydrogen acts as a potent and reliable source of chemical energy, providing the fuel for a process called methanogenesis. This is a specific type of metabolism used by some of the most ancient and resilient life forms on Earth to survive in environments without any sunlight. The discovery of this gas transforms the moon from a collection of interesting molecules into a world with a viable power grid for biology. As you continue to breathe in a slow, calming rhythm, think of the hydrogen as the breath of the core, rising through the dark water to signal its enduring vitality. This gas is the energy currency of the abyss, allowing the moon to sustain activity far beneath its frozen, silent exterior. It is a signal of a living, breathing planetary engine that is constantly processing and cycling energy through its dark and mysterious waters. This specific mixture of chemicals provides a potential and robust food source for microbial life to thrive in total, absolute darkness. The combination of organic molecules, minerals, and molecular hydrogen creates a rich chemical banquet at the seafloor and throughout the water column. In the absence of sunlight, potential organisms would rely on chemosynthesis, drawing their energy directly from the reactions taking place between the water and the core. This pathway to life is well documented in the deep-sea vents of our own planet, where complex and diverse ecosystems flourish without a single ray of light ever reaching them. The ocean of Enceladus is not a barren or empty wasteland, but a fertile soup of possibilities, stocked with the ingredients needed to sustain a hidden biosphere. It is a world where energy and matter are perfectly aligned to support the spark of existence in the dark. As you sink into a state of total, grounded comfort, imagine the invisible activity of these molecules, providing the foundation for a world that might be far more crowded than it appears. This chemical wealth is a promise of life, a standing invitation for biology to take root in the heart of a frozen moon. It proves that light is not the only source of life, and that the dark can be just as productive and inviting. The chemical profile reveals an alkaline pH level remarkably similar to household ammonia, creating a unique and specific environment that defines the hidden sea. This high pH indicates that the water has undergone significant and prolonged interaction with the rocky core, leaching out alkaline minerals over eons of time. Such an environment is highly conducive to the stability of certain organic molecules and the formation of complex branch structures that are essential for long-term molecular growth. It suggests a sea that is not acidic or harsh, but has a mellow, basic character that favours specific types of chemical equilibrium and long-term stability for its inhabitants. This alkalinity is a key indicator of the Moon's internal history, revealing the long-term dialogue between the liquid ocean and the solid heart. It provides a stable and consistent backdrop for the ongoing chemical dance of the organic building blocks, ensuring that the environment remains consistent over millions of years. This chemical stability is a hallmark of a world that is not just active, but is also a potential long-term nursery for molecular complexity. The pH balance is the silent conductor of the ocean's orchestra, keeping every reaction in its proper place and time. It turns a chaotic mixture of chemicals into a structured and predictable environment where the foundations of existence can be built with confidence and enduring strength. If we were to look closer at the atomic level, we would realize that all 6 essential elements for life as we know it are present in this tiny, distant world. Carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur form the complete set of ingredients required to build the machinery of existence. Finding the entire CHNOPS list in a single location outside of Earth is a monumental and unprecedented milestone in the history of human exploration and scientific discovery. It means that the fundamental requirements for biology are not unique to our planet, but are distributed across the vast reaches of the solar system. The Moon possesses the full chemical alphabet, lacking only the spark or the time to arrange them into a living, breathing sentence of biological reality. This realization ties together the entire journey of the hidden ocean, transforming a frozen ball of ice into a world of profound biological destiny and universal importance. It is a testament to the universality of chemistry and the incredible potential that lies hidden beneath the bright white exterior of this Saturnian jewel. As we contemplate this list of elements, we see the Moon not as a cold rock, but as a cradle of possibilities, ready to share its secrets with the rest of the cosmos. This final chemical discovery is the crowning glory of our exploration, proving that the universe is far more welcoming than we ever dared to imagine. This welcoming universe, as we have come to realize, does not end at the bright reflective surface of the Moon, but extends its invitation deep into the velvet shadows of the planetary interior. Far beneath the protective armor of the ice shell, where the weight of a global sea presses down with unimaginable force, the story of this world reaches a profound and quiet climax. At the very bottom of the hidden ocean, the salt, heavy water interacts directly with a porous, rocky core, bridging the gap between the fluid exterior and the ancient foundations of the Moon. This is not a sterile or static boundary where water simply rests upon a cold, dead floor. Instead, the sea seeps into the shattered, mineral-rich stone, initiating a deep-seated communion that has likely persisted for billions of years. It is a landscape of profound intimacy, where the liquid heart of the Moon draws its character and its chemical destiny from the very bedrock of its birth. Tracing the path of this water takes us into a realm of eternal darkness, where the crushing pressure and the heat of the core conspire to create something truly extraordinary. If we were to look closer at this submerged frontier, we would see the rugged, unshielded rock of the interior surrendering its secrets to the persistent touch of the brine. This interaction is the fundamental starting point for the Moon's incredible vitality, providing the minerals and the energy that will eventually reach the stars. It is a place where the moon's internal architecture is laid bare, washed by the same dark waters that later erupt into the Saturnian sky. This intimate contact between the saltwater sea and the warm stone is the catalyst for a spectacular and violent subterranean phenomenon. The interaction creates scorching hydrothermal vents across the seafloor, jagged chimneys of mineral-rich rock that breathe life into the absolute blackness of the abyss. These towering structures stand as silent obsidian monuments to the moon's internal fire, casting a ghostly infrared glow into the lightless environment of the deep sea. From these vents, scalding blasts of mineral-rich water shoot upward into the freezing depths, creating a turbulent and energetic environment that defies the moon's frozen exterior. The water that enters the porous core is heated by tidal friction and chemical reactions until it becomes a buoyant, surging force that must find its way back to the sea. It carves out complex paths through the rock, dissolving metals and salts along the way to create a potent, dark chemical soup that feeds the global ocean. Surprisingly, the universe has managed to maintain these islands of heat in a world otherwise defined by the absolute deep freeze of the outer solar system. These vents are the primary conduits of the moon's soul, transferring the raw mechanical power of the core into the liquid environment above with every pulse of boiling water. They are the beating heart of the abyss, providing a localized warmth that turns the silent seafloor into a site of intense, ongoing geological drama. Evidence of this distant underwater violence was not discovered through direct observation, but was carried across the vastness of the Saturnian system to be caught by the sensors of our visiting spacecraft. The discovery of tiny silica nanoparticles within the moon's icy spray strongly confirms that these underwater geysers are currently active and thriving. These nanoscopic grains of sand are the physical messengers of the deep, telling a story of a seafloor that is anything but still. To reach the detectors of our robotic emissaries, these particles had to embark on an incredible and arduous journey from the very bottom of the world. They were formed in the scalding heat of the seafloor chimneys and were carried by powerful currents through 10 kilometers of dark water before blasting through miles of solid ice. Their arrival in the vacuum of space is a triumph of cosmic delivery, providing a direct physical link between the absolute dark of the seafloor and the brilliance of the Saturnian rings. As you rest here, feeling the calm, steady weight of your body against the surface below, consider the sheer scale of the journey these tiny particles have taken. They are the fingerprints of a world in turmoil, proof that the brilliant jewel we see from afar is boiling at its very base. Each grain is a testament to the interconnectedness of this small moon, a piece of the core that has travelled through water and ice to share its story with the cosmos. Surprisingly, these tiny messengers tell a story of heat so intense that it challenges our fundamental understanding of how a small, frozen moon should behave. Scientific analysis of the captured material proves that these specific silica grains can only form in water that is at least 90 degrees Celsius. This temperature approaches the boiling point here on Earth, suggesting that the interior of the moon harbours a hidden furnace of incredible, concentrated intensity. The existence of such high temperatures requires a robust and ongoing energy source that can overcome the immense cooling effect of the surrounding deep-sea brine. It implies that the hydrothermal systems on the seafloor are not mere trickles, but are powerful and persistent engines of thermal radiation. This heat is the primary architect of the moon's chemistry, ensuring that the water remains highly reactive and capable of stripping minerals from the stone. If we were to look closer at the point of origin, we would see the water shimmering with heat as it exits the jagged chimneys of the core. This temperature threshold is a critical piece of the planetary puzzle, as it defines the specific chemical reactions that keep the ocean rich with the building blocks of complexity. It is a localized, fierce fire that burns in the dark, a hidden warmth that sustains the liquid heart of the moon against the crushing cold of space. This energetic movement creates a magnificent vertical dance of matter that dominates the entire water column of the hidden global sea. Hot, mineral-rich water surges upward from the core with immense buoyant force, seeking the cooler and denser layers of the ocean far above. This turbulent mixing creates a vertical weather system of convection, where the heat of the core is carried through miles of absolute darkness toward the icy ceiling. Notice how this slow, majestic circulation mirrors the atmospheric movements of our own planet, but on a scale of profound pressure and total shadow. The surging water carries with it the organic molecules and the mineral wealth synthesized in the core, distributing them throughout the global sea in an endless cycle. It is a planetary breath, moving energy from the center to the edges, ensuring that the ocean remains a dynamic and well-mixed environment. The contrast between the boiling liquid at the seafloor and the freezing temperatures of the outer ice creates a powerful upward draft that defines the moon's internal anatomy. This circulation is the primary engine of the moon's chemistry, a liquid conveyor belt that links the boiling rock to the frozen crust. It is a world of constant motion, where the stillness of the abyss is an illusion maintained by the steady rhythmic pulse of the hydrothermal vents. Looking back toward the familiar shores of our own blue planet, we find a tantalizing and profound parallel to these dark, energetic sanctuaries. Similar hydrothermal vents in the deepest trenches of Earth's own oceans teem with blind, alien-like ecosystems that have never seen a single ray of sunlight. In these terrestrial oases, giant tube worms and ghost white shrimp rely entirely on the chemical bounty of the planet to survive and flourish in the dark. The existence of identical conditions on a distant moon suggests that a similar sanctuary could be blossoming in the dark, miles beneath the Saturnian clouds. If the same chemistry and the same heat exist in both places, it stands to reason that the same spark of life could have taken hold in the deep. It is a world that feels suddenly and deeply less alien to us, as we recognize the familiar architecture of a habitable environment. As your own breathing remains effortless and quiet, imagine the silent, blind creatures that could be navigating the mineral-rich fog of the moon's seafloor. They would exist in a world where the only light is the faint infrared glow of the scalding vents, and the only food is the chemical breath of the planet. This comparison turns a distant moon into a biological mirror, reflecting the possibilities of our own world across the silent void of the solar system. The engine driving this incredible activity is a specific and relentless chemical process known as serpentinization, occurring deep within the moon's rocky architecture. As water reacts with the iron and magnesium-rich minerals of the core, it releases a steady and reliable supply of thermal energy and hydrogen gas. This process of serpentinization inside the rock provides a steady supply of energy, turning the very substance of the stone into a battery of chemical potential. Deep within the porous core, the minerals are slowly rearranged and softened, releasing the energy that has been stored within them for billions of years. This process ensures that the moon remains active and alive even when the tidal forces of Saturn fluctuate or the orbital paths shift over time. It is a fundamental chemical engine, a slow-burning fire that keeps the heart of the world warm and its waters rich with the building blocks of existence. Feel the profound stability and warmth of your own rest, knowing that even in the coldest void, there are environments that provide everything needed for life to take root. Deep within this absolute darkness, where the sun is nothing more than a distant and forgotten spark, chemical energy could theoretically sustain life without any need for sunlight. This chemosynthetic pathway allows for a hidden biosphere to flourish in a realm of high pressure and eternal night. Any potential organisms living here would draw their life directly from the chemical reactions taking place at the seafloor vents. They would be the ultimate survivors, thriving in a high-pressure, lightless environment that would be instantly fatal to almost any creature on Earth's surface. This chemical pathway to life is robust and ancient, representing one of the most stable ways for biology to persist in the vastness of the universe. The darkness of the moon's ocean is not a barrier to existence, but a sanctuary where chemistry can flourish in peace, away from the harsh radiation of space. It is a world where the laws of biology are fueled by the breath of the planet itself, creating a cradle of life in the heart of the deep. This realization expands our definition of a habitable world, proving that the warmth of a star is not the only way to light the fire of existence. The efficiency of this chemical engine is greatly increased by the unique and porous nature of the Moon's internal structure. The rocky core itself is believed to be loosely packed and easily permeated by the ocean water, much like a gargantuan cosmic sponge of ancient stone. This porous architecture allows the sea to infiltrate deep into the very centre of the Moon, maximizing the surface area where stone and water can interact. If the core were a solid, impenetrable block, the chemical reactions would be limited to the very surface of the seafloor, stifling the Moon's potential. Instead, the water can flow through miles of subterranean tunnels and cracks, leaching minerals and heat from the very heart of the world. This internal structure ensures that the Moon remains a porous and active reactor, constantly processing the substances of its birth into the energy of its present. This broken, sponge-like core is a direct result of the Moon's formation and the constant rhythmic flexing it experiences from Saturn's massive gravity. The stone is shattered and moved by the tides, preventing it from ever settling into a solid and inert mass. This internal brokenness is actually the secret to the Moon's vitality, ensuring that the sea always has a path to reach the fire hidden deep within the rock. This intricate deep-sea plumbing system constantly circulates essential nutrients throughout the global ocean, linking the activity of the core to the destiny of the surface. Every drop of the hidden sea eventually passes through these scalding vents, becoming enriched by the fire of the interior before rising toward the ice shell. It acts as a massive planet-wide circulatory system that ensures no part of the global ocean is left sterile or stagnant in the dark. This global circulation is the reason we can detect the seafloor chemistry in the plumes at the South Pole, even though the vents may be thousands of miles away. The ocean acts as a giant mixer, carrying the products of the core to the cracks in the ice, where they can be sampled by our visiting spacecraft. It is a beautifully connected system, where the smallest reaction on the seafloor can eventually reach the stars as a brilliant spray of frost. This brilliant spray of frost is the physical signature of a world that has quietly fulfilled every requirement on the cosmic checklist for the emergence of existence. In the vast, freezing reaches of the outer solar system, this tiny moon meets all three fundamental requirements for habitability: the presence of stable liquid water, a rich inventory of complex chemistry, and a steady, reliable energy source. This rare alignment of biological pillars transforms the Moon from a simple geological curiosity into a premier sanctuary for the possibility of life. The liquid sea provides the essential medium for molecular movement, while the hydrothermal vents offer a localized hearth of thermal and chemical energy. Within this dark cradle, the organic building blocks we have already witnessed provide the raw materials for a hidden biosphere. It is a profound realization that a body so small and distant could possess the same life-giving trinity that once sparked the history of our own home planet. Surprisingly, the universe has composed this environment with such balance that it remains stable over hundreds of millions of years. This longevity is crucial, as it provides the necessary time for simple chemistry to transition into the complex self-replicating systems of biology. The Moon stands as a silent promise, a distant laboratory, where the most fundamental mystery of the universe may be playing out in absolute pressurized darkness. Deep beneath that shimmering exhaust, the constant churning of the global ocean acts as an invisible hand, ensuring that every essential nutrient is thoroughly and perfectly mixed throughout the deep-sea environment. Because the warm water from the seafloor vents is constantly rising, and the cooler water is sinking, the hidden sea is never allowed to settle into a stagnant or stratified state. This perpetual motion creates a dynamic buffet for any potential life, moving the chemical wealth of the core into every corner of the dark abyss. This global circulation ensures that even the most remote regions of the ocean are periodically replenished with the minerals and energy released at the seafloor. It creates a unified habitat where the conditions for life are not restricted to a few isolated vents, but are distributed across a planet-wide scale. The entire moon functions as a single breathing organism, constantly processing and cycling the ingredients of existence. Notice how this fluid exchange provides a sense of profound continuity to the hidden world. Any microbial life drifting in these waters would never find itself in a barren or depleted pocket of the sea. Instead, the relentless tidal engine we explored earlier keeps the waters rich and revitalized, serving as the ultimate support system for a world that never sees the light of day. As you feel the gentle weight of your limbs and the quiet, steady rhythm of your own breath, consider the profound silence of the moon's internal sanctuary. While the surrounding space is filled with the harsh, lethal radiation emanating from the massive gas giants of Saturn and Jupiter, these invisible daggers cannot penetrate the thick, protective ice shell to harm the waters below. This monumental barrier of frost acts as a perfect lead-lined vault, sheltering the delicate molecular dance of the interior from the violent energy of the cosmos. Beneath 30 kilometers of solid ice, the environment is shielded from the solar flares and high-energy particles that would otherwise strip away the possibility of biological survival. This isolation creates a stable and quiet nursery, where evolution can proceed without the constant threat of external interference or radiation damage. It is a world of total, absolute peace, protected by a ceiling that is as hard as granite and as white as bone. If we were to look closer, we would see that the very ice that makes the surface so cold and inhospitable is the primary guardian of the warmth and life below. This dual nature of the crust allows the moon to exist in a state of grace, maintaining a liquid heart in the middle of a radioactive and freezing graveyard. The thick shell ensures that whatever blooms in the dark remains undisturbed by the chaos of the wider solar system. The presence of methanogenesis could allow potential microbes to thrive in the pitch black, providing a robust metabolic pathway that does not require a single ray of sunlight. This specific chemical process, where organisms combine hydrogen and carbon dioxide to produce methane and energy, is one of the most ancient and resilient forms of life on our own planet. In the lightless depths of the moon's ocean, this reaction would serve as the primary source of biological power, fueling the invisible movement of a hidden world. Imagine tiny, single-celled organisms clustered around the warm, mineral-rich vents, harvesting the chemical breath of the core to sustain their existence. These microscopic entities would not be limited by the lack of photosynthesis, as they have found a way to draw their life directly from the planetary interior. It is a form of existence that is entirely decoupled from the sun, thriving on the slow-burning fire of the moon's own geological metabolism. Surprisingly, the universe has provided a perfect chemical fuel for this hidden life through the serpentinization occurring in the rocky core. The molecular hydrogen we detected in the plumes is the ultimate energy currency, a gift from the stone that allows the dark to become a garden. This metabolic pathway is a testament to the versatility of life, proving that the spark of existence can adapt to even the most alien and pressurized environments. Astrobiologists consider this small, brilliant moon to be one of the prime targets for discovering extraterrestrial life in the modern era of exploration. Its combination of accessible samples and habitable conditions makes it a more compelling destination than even the most famous planets in our solar neighborhood. The moon has moved from the periphery of our scientific interest to the very center of the search for our place in the cosmos. This focus is driven by the fact that the moon is actively offering up its secrets through its towering fountains, rather than forcing us to dig deep into its interior. It is a world that invites observation, presenting a sample of its hidden sea to anyone capable of flying through its cold, white spray. This accessibility, combined with the presence of all the necessary ingredients for life, makes it a unique and irresistible target for future inquiry. Deep within the halls of our scientific institutions, plans are being drawn up to return to this tiny world with a new level of precision and purpose. The moon represents the best chance we have to answer the question of whether we are alone in the universe within our own lifetimes. It is a beacon of astrobiological promise, shining with the light of potential discovery against the dark background of the outer rings. If life were to be found within these dark and salty waters, any biological organisms discovered would have evolved completely independently of Earth. This concept of a second genesis is the holy grail of biology, proving that life is not a freak accident unique to our home, but a predictable consequence of the right conditions. Such a discovery would fundamentally rewrite our understanding of the universe, moving life from a planetary anomaly to a cosmic rule. Because the environment of the moon is so different from our own, the evolutionary path taken by these potential microbes would be entirely unique. They would have adapted to the high pressures, the alkaline chemistry, and the total darkness of the abyss in ways that we can only begin to imagine. This independence means that their genetic structure and their basic biological mechanisms could be fundamentally different from anything found on our world. Resting in this space of quiet awareness, realize that the discovery of even a single independent microbe would double the known diversity of life in the cosmos. It would prove that the spark of existence can ignite multiple times in a single solar system, suggesting that the galaxy is likely teeming with 1,000 different forms of life. The moon is the key to unlocking this broader perspective, offering us a glimpse of a biology that is truly and beautifully alien. Future missions are being designed specifically to hunt for biosignatures in the fresh plumes, using advanced instruments to search for the chemical fingerprints of active biology. These probes would be equipped with miniaturized laboratories capable of detecting complex fatty acids, amino acid chirality, and the isotopic signatures that characterize living systems. The goal is to move beyond simple chemistry and find the definitive proof of a functional and reproducing biosphere. These missions would seek out the specific patterns of molecules that only emerge when life is present to organize them. By sampling the geyser spray repeatedly, they can build a statistical model of the ocean's content, looking for the telltale fluctuations that signal the presence of a metabolic system. It is a sophisticated form of cosmic forensic science, piecing together the reality of the interior from the microscopic debris ejected into space. If we were to look closer at the design of these future voyages, we would see a perfect marriage of human curiosity and technological brilliance. These spacecraft would be the most sensitive and purposeful tools ever sent into the dark, tasked with the most important mission in the history of science. They represent our collective desire to reach out and touch the hidden life of another world, bridging the gap between our planet and the Saturnian jewel. Beyond the fly-through missions, a more ambitious and daring proposed lander could eventually melt its way through the thick crust to deploy a submersible into the ocean. This mission would use a thermal drill to penetrate the kilometers of ice, carrying a robotic explorer through the final barrier between our world and the hidden sea. Once released into the water, the submersible would navigate the dark abyss, searching for the hydrothermal vents and the life that might cluster around them. As you feel the comfort of the stillness surrounding you, imagine the silent descent of this robotic pioneer into the pressurized darkness of an alien ocean. It would move through a vertical wilderness of 10 kilometers, its lights cutting through a fog of mineral-rich water for the first time in history. This direct exploration would allow us to see the seafloor chimneys with our own eyes and capture the movement of potential organisms in their natural habitat. This structure of exploration is the ultimate goal of astrobiology, moving from distant observation to direct, intimate contact. The technological challenges are immense, but the potential reward is a total transformation of our worldview. It is a dream of reaching into the depths of a moon to find a mirror of our own origins, a journey that would take us to the very edge of the human experience. The relative accessibility of its ejected water makes Enceladus significantly easier to sample and study than Jupiter's larger moon, Europa. While Europa also harbours a global ocean, its ice shell is likely much thicker, and its radiation environment is far more hostile to robotic spacecraft. Enceladus, by contrast, is a world that is practically begging to be sampled, throwing its ocean material directly into the path of any passing observer. This ease of access means that we can perform sophisticated biological searches without the need for the incredibly complex and risky landing maneuvers required elsewhere. We can taste the ocean from the safety of orbit, collecting fresh material that has only just emerged from the interior. This makes the tiny moon a high-reward, low-risk destination for the search for life, a celestial low-hanging fruit in the garden of the outer planets. Notice how the universe has provided us with a perfect shortcut to the most profound discovery in history. This small, bright moon is a gift to the curious, a place where the barrier between us and the unknown has been thin and fractured by the forces of nature. It stands as a more welcoming and approachable neighbour, inviting us to solve the mystery of life with the tools we already possess. We could potentially discover the definitive signs of life simply by flying a probe through the geyser spray again, provided we carry the right instruments. This realization simplifies the search for life down to a single elegant maneuver: the high-speed capture of microscopic frost particles in the void. It is a staggering thought that the answer to our oldest question could be found in a few drops of water, caught 1 billion miles from home. By performing multiple passes at different altitudes and locations, a spacecraft could map the biological content of the ocean with incredible detail. It would allow us to see if life is concentrated at the vents or spread globally through the churning currents we have already explored. This mission would be the ultimate culmination of our journey, a moment of profound clarity achieved through a simple act of orbital movement. As you drift toward the final stages of total grounded comfort, consider how close we are to this discovery. The moon is there, the plumes are active, and the ocean is waiting to share its story with anyone who is willing to listen. This final promise of the astrobiological journey is a testament to the fact that the most incredible secrets of the universe are often hidden in the most humble and unexpected of places. The paradoxical world sensory focus, the fleeting, fragile nature of a water world balancing on the edge of freezing forever. In these humble and unexpected corners of the Saturnian system, a profound chronological riddle lingers beneath the shimmering white exterior of the moon. While the solar system itself spans a staggering 4.5 billion years, the true age of this dynamic moon remains a fiercely debated mystery among planetary scientists. We often assume that these frozen sentinels were born alongside the giant planets they orbit, yet the evidence here suggests a far more complex and restless history. This temporal uncertainty creates a haunting sense of fragility as we look upon the moon's brilliant surface. It is a world that seems to exist outside of the traditional clockwork of the cosmos, challenging our most basic assumptions about the stability of the outer planets. The mystery of its birth is the first layer of a paradox that threatens to overturn our understanding of how planetary systems evolve and age in the deep cold of the outer reaches. If we were to look closer, we would see that every fracture and crater is a silent witness to a timeline that we are only beginning to decipher. The moon stands as a beautiful anomaly, a place where time itself feels fluid and unresolved against the backdrop of the ancient distant stars. Solving this riddle is essential to understanding whether the moon's current activity is a permanent feature or a rare, fleeting miracle in the vast expanse of time. Surprisingly, the universe may have birthed this luminous world far more recently than the ancient battered planets that surround it. Some evidence gathered from the moon's unique orbital path and its remarkably clean reflective surface suggests the entire moon might be only 100 million years old. In the grand, multi-billion-year narrative of our solar system, this would make the glittering sphere a mere infant, a latecomer to the Saturnian family of satellites. This youthful origin would explain why the surface is so impossibly bright and devoid of the heavy cratering that defines its older, darker, and more weathered neighbours. If the moon were truly ancient, billions of years of constant cosmic bombardment would have left it scarred and covered in layers of dark interplanetary dust and debris. Instead, we see a world that is fresh and unblemished, as if it was only just carved from the primeval ice of the outer rings by a celestial hand. As your resting body yields completely to the calm and heavy pull of gravity, consider the implications of such a recent arrival in the cold heavens. It suggests that the solar system is still a place of active creation, where new worlds can emerge long after the initial dust of formation has settled. This young moon is a reminder that the story of the cosmos is not a finished book, but an ongoing and unpredictable epic written in ice. If we were to look closer at the timeline of our own home, this moon would have been a newborn at the height of the Mesozoic era. If it formed recently, it would have witnessed the era of the dinosaurs on Earth from its distant icy perch in the cold Saturnian system. While the Tyrannosaurus rex navigated the lush, warm forests of our world, this tiny sphere was likely just beginning to find its stable place in the orbit of the ringed giant. This connection across the vastness of space creates a startling sense of perspective regarding the scale of geological and biological time on separate worlds. It means that the spectacular geysers we study today were just starting to roar into the vacuum while the most famous creatures in Earth's history were reaching their biological peak. The history of life on our planet and the history of this moon are strangely intertwined, separated by billions of miles but linked by the same brief moment in the cosmic day. Picture the absolute contrast between the humid, teeming life of the dinosaur age and the silent, freezing birth of this crystalline white moon. It is a world that has never known the ancient, dusty eras of the early solar system, but was born into a universe that was already mature and complex. This shared history makes the moon feel more like a contemporary of our own world, a sibling born in the same afternoon of the great cosmic day. Conversely, the sheer density of the moon's internal rocky foundation whispers a much older, more traditional story of its creation and long-term existence. The presence of a dense rocky core implies it has existed since the dawn of the solar system, potentially forming over 4 billion years ago alongside the other major celestial bodies. Rock is a heavy and slow-gathering material, and finding such a significant core inside such a small moon suggests a long and patient history of gravitational accumulation. This ancient origin stands in direct contradiction to the youthful appearance of the surface, creating a fundamental paradox that scientists still struggle to resolve with current models. It suggests a world with an old, stoic heart wrapped in a young, vibrant skin, a celestial body that has somehow managed to hide its true age for countless eons. The core is the anchor of the moon's identity, a solid relic of the early nebula that saw the birth of our own sun and planets. Allow your mind to settle into the deep, enduring stillness of your own rest, mirroring the ancient and unyielding rock at the center of this world. This internal density is the primary driver of the tidal forces that keep the ocean liquid, linking the moon's ancient past to its hyperactive and brilliant present. It is a world of layers and contradictions, where every new discovery only deepens the mystery of its true and final place in the timeline. This structure of constant and violent eruption presents a troubling mathematical reality for the long-term survival of the world's liquid heart and its brilliant exterior. The staggering amount of material lost through the plumes cannot easily be sustained over billions of years without eventually emptying the hidden ocean or significantly altering the moon's mass. Every second that the geysers roar into the vacuum, the moon is physically losing substance, shedding its internal ocean into the E-ring at an unsustainable rate. If the moon had been active in this specific way since the dawn of time, it would have likely depleted its internal reservoirs or frozen solid long ago. This suggests that we are witnessing a specific high-intensity phase of the moon's life that may be relatively short-lived in the geological sense of the term. The moon is like a candle burning with a brilliant but temporary flame, exhausting its fuel to create a masterpiece of light and movement in the dark. Deep within the mathematical complexities of the Saturnian dance, the gravitational tether between these two moons appears remarkably fragile and potentially temporary in nature. The orbital resonance with Dione might be a temporary configuration in the cosmic timeline, a brief alignment that happened to occur in the current era of observation. This specific arrangement is what provides the intense tidal heating needed to maintain the global ocean and power the spectacular fountains of the South Pole. Because orbital paths are constantly shifting due to the influence of other moons and the planet's own rotation, this perfect harmony is destined to eventually break. If the resonance shifts even slightly, the internal furnace would lose its primary fuel source, and the warmth of the interior would begin to dissipate into the cold vacuum. The Moon is a world caught in a lucky temporary moment of gravitational grace, a fluke of celestial mechanics that allows its heart to remain liquid. As you relax, feel the profound and effortless balance of your own body, a delicate state of harmony that the Moon mirrors in its own orbit. This realization makes our current observations even more precious, as we're witnessing a specific and unlikely configuration that may not have existed a million years ago. The orbital dance is a fleeting arrangement, a beautiful alignment that has transformed a cold rock into a fountain of life for all to see. Notice how this implies that the spectacular and towering geysers we observe today might be nothing more than a fleeting temporary phenomenon in the life of the Moon. We've arrived at the Saturnian system at exactly the right moment to witness a world that is breathing its internal secrets into the sky with intensity. If our robotic explorers had arrived just a few million years earlier or later, they might have found a silent, featureless sphere of ice with no hint of drama. This fleeting nature turns the Moon into a rare and precious jewel, a world that is experiencing a brief and glorious peak of activity in its history. It is a reminder that the universe is not a static place, but is filled with events that flare up and fade away over vast timescales. The geysers are a temporary gift, a window into the Moon's soul that is currently standing wide open for us to study and appreciate from afar. Surprisingly, the universe has a way of hiding its most dynamic wonders in these brief pulses of energy and matter across the silence of the void. This realization adds a sense of urgency to our study of the Moon, as we know that the geysers will not last forever and the opportunity is limited. We are the lucky observers of a cosmic performance that is reaching its finale, a spectacular display of ice and light that defines the world. The specific mechanism that originally melted the subsurface ocean and initiated this era of activity is still not perfectly understood by our brightest minds and current models. While tidal heating explains how the ocean is sustained today, it does not easily account for how a solid block of ice was first transformed into a sea. It requires a massive initial infusion of energy to break the internal bonds of the ice and create the fluid layer that allows the engine to work. Allow the quiet mystery of this missing piece to settle over you as you embrace the calm and unresolved nature of the world in this moment. The Moon is a master of keeping its secrets, revealing its active present while obscuring the details of its violent or accidental past from our view. This unknown origin is the ghost in the machine, the silent cause behind the brilliant reality we see every time we point our telescopes towards Saturn. This structure of variable ice thickness continues to defy the standard laws of planetary thermodynamics that we apply to other worlds in our wide solar system. The thickness of the ice shell varies in ways that challenge our current models, with the pole being remarkably thin while other regions remain incredibly thick. Under normal conditions, heat should distribute itself more evenly across the global sea, leading to a much more uniform shell of ice across the entire globe. The fact that such a dramatic thinning occurs only at the South Pole suggests a highly focused and intense localized energy source that we cannot explain. It implies a degree of internal complexity and non-uniformity that makes the Moon a unique and unpredictable subject of study for scientists across the world. The ice shell is not just a covering, it is a dynamic and poorly understood participant in the Moon's thermal and geological history in the dark. If we were to look closer, we would see a world that refuses to follow the simple rules of heat and cold, creating a landscape. This defiance of thermodynamics is a sign that there are still fundamental principles of planetary science that we have yet to discover in our journey. The Moon is a small but powerful rebel, proving that the universe still has the capacity to surprise us with its intricate and non-linear behaviour today. Despite its tiny size, this small and brilliant moon holds more answers to our origins than planets 1,000 times larger and more imposing in the sky. It is a concentrated vessel of planetary evolution, astrobiology, and celestial mechanics, offering a direct window into the conditions that allow for the emergence of life. While the gas giants represent the vastness of the cosmos, this tiny jewel represents its potential for complexity and biological discovery in the dark. The accessibility of its internal ocean and the wealth of organic molecules it provides make it the single most important laboratory in our search for life. It has taught us more about the possibility of habitability in the outer solar system than decades of observations of larger and more distant planetary worlds. The Moon proves that importance is not measured in mass or volume, but in the depth of the stories that a world is willing to share. As you reach the final threshold of deep and restorative rest, consider the incredible significance of this small, shimmering sphere in the dark of space. It is a world that has rewritten our textbooks and expanded our imaginations, showing us that the most profound wonders are often found in the most humble places. This tiny moon is the ultimate teacher, a silent guardian of the secrets that link the stone of the planets to the spark of existence. The fragile existence of Enceladus reveals that life is not an inevitable outcome of ancient stable planets, but a rare and beautiful blossom of energy and chemistry that can ignite in the most fleeting and unexpected moments of cosmic time. The grand synthesis. The greatest revelation of Enceladus is that the cold, violent depths of the outer solar system harbour the exact gentle, watery cradle required to spark the flame of life. This realization brings us back from the shimmering rings, pulling our focus back toward the stillness of your own room. The vast distances dissolve until all that remains is the steady weight of your body. Surprisingly, the body knows exactly how to settle, finding comfort in the simple act of letting go. Focus now on the tips of your toes, feeling the tension evaporate into the air. This heaviness spreads through your feet and ankles, anchoring you to the softness beneath you. Your calves and knees are surrendering their strength, becoming as still and silent as the floor of a garden. Heavy and relaxed, the muscles in your thighs are unclenching, allowing you to sink deeper into your blankets. Your lower back is finally finding peace as it melts into the layers of the bed. If we were to look closer, your entire torso is softening, rising and falling with a rhythm as ancient as a resting breath. Let your shoulders drop, releasing the last hold on the waking world. Your arms are heavy, with your palms resting motionless and at ease. The small muscles in your hands are quiet now, their work finished for the night. Softness moves through your neck and into your jaw, which rests slack and comfortable. A heavy feeling settles in your tongue, and the skin across your forehead is smooth and cool. Your eyelids are so heavy that they remain closed without any effort at all. Within the darkness behind your eyelids is a warm and familiar velvet. This quiet room is a sanctuary where the only sound is the muffled whisper of your breath. Every inhale brings deep calm, while every exhale carries away the last traces of thought. Your bed is a cloud of stillness, supporting you with a kindness that requires nothing in return. You're safe in this silence, wrapped in the soft textures of the sheets. The world outside these walls is a distant memory, separate from the peace you have found here. Feelings of heaviness in your limbs are a signal that sleep is ready to take you. It is a slow, rhythmic surrender to the dark, as natural as the turning of the seasons. You're drifting toward the deep and dreamless peace that waits at the center of the house. Every breath you take welcomes you home to yourself. You're melting into the mattress, becoming one with the quiet shadows. Everything is exactly as it should be in this final moment before you drift away. Cool air fills your lungs with complete tranquility. Your heart beats slowly, a quiet and steady drum in the stillness. You're ready to let go completely and fall into the rest you deserve, And now 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.